Yo, yo, get up, nah I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. Never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast. And that's facts.
Welcome, Chicago, to another episode of the Chicago Sports Podcast. Michael and Keds coming to you this Tuesday night. See, the Blackhawks are up 1-0 around the Chicago World. Sadly, Cubs lost very, very early this morning. Keds, were you up to watch that at all? I mean, I don't even know if you're a Cubs fan. Do you end up watching that at all?
No, I'm a football guy, man. I've given up
go.
on all the other sports, including basketball, which I followed for many years. Being a Canadian, also did a little bit of hockey. I do enjoy some good old Blackhawks, but mostly Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, well, there you go. Blackhawks are up 1-0. See, it was Bedard on a power play, and it was Lev Shinov got an assist there, too. Good to see the kids getting into it. But we're going to talk some Bears here tonight here on the Chicago Sports Podcast, specifically the running backs in this draft class, a draft class that is highly praised for the running back depth that it has, also the star power at the top. But overall, Keds, before we dive into some of these individual names, what are your overall thoughts so far about this running back class?
Probably the deepest running back class that I've seen in the longest time. I couldn't tell you about a class this deep. Geez, maybe going back even 10 years from, like, I've never seen a class this deep. I don't think I've ever seen one.
Yeah, I mean, the depth here is insane because there are guys that you could genuinely pick in the fourth round, and they might genuinely become some RB1s, some real bell cow running backs. And we're going to dive into some of those names. I don't think we're going to waste any time here, Kevs. I'm going to just jump into the first name on the list, and I think that's Iowa's Kaleb Johnson. 2,000-yard rusher for Iowa this past year, a big physical back. He tested pretty okay at the combine. Outside of his 40, he had a 4.57 40. I think that turned a little bit of an eye to him, but overall his physicality, it jumps out on you. He has a lean, low pad forward, sort of downhill running ability. He can hit some of those home run runs. He hit 21 runs of 20-plus yards in this past year despite facing stacked boxes. I mean, this is Iowa, kids. I mean, they don't pass the ball. They only run the ball. Teams knew that they were going to run the ball, and yet Kaleb Johnson still ran for 2,000 yards. What are your overall thoughts here on Kaleb, man?
I think he's a big body running back, and he's that thunder if you're looking for that thunder. I like the kid. I was really hoping he would show up a little bit faster at the combine. Maybe he will show up a little bit faster when it comes down to his pro day. But that's sort of my thoughts there. If you need a bruiser, if you need a bell cow back, he's a bell cow ready to rock and roll. He'll also catch out of the backfield too. It's kind of the whole package, depending on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a full package thunder back, I guess we're going to call it now. Yeah, Kaleb Johnson's a guy.
Yeah, Kaleb Johnson, I mean, mentioned his speed, that breakaway, and it kind of got noticed in one of the games. I mean, there was an instance in the game against Michigan State this past year. He looked gone, like completely gone out to the races, and yet he ended up getting tracked down, wasn't able to take it to the house. That stuff can kind of come back to bite you, and it showed up in his 40-yard dash with him running a 4.57. Also, maybe not the best pass blocker, Keds. I mean, we've heard Ben Johnson talk about no block, no rock. If Kaleb Johnson isn't blocking, I can't imagine he's going to be high on Ben Johnson's list. I get you can develop guys, and that's not obviously Kaleb Johnson's strong suit, so he's not just going to be a bad player because he can't pass block, but maybe just not the best fit for the Bears considering his run blocking ability. His route tree, not really the best. He was kind of just used as a swing check down guy, not really a true route runner. So just kind of looking at a little bit of his weaknesses, kind of doesn't sound like a Ben Johnson running back.
Nope. Yeah, I wish I could say more. I know the Bears were looking. They definitely investigated the Kaleb Johnson idea quite a bit. That's my understanding of the situation at this present time. But, if you're going to line him up with a Jahmyr Gibbs, they're really two different beasts. You
Yeah.
know, yeah.
Yeah, especially when you look at like Gibbs, his ability out of the backfield, his ability to pass block. If Ben Johnson's looking for that in his running back, I'm not sure exactly Kaleb Johnson is his guy. If he was looking for a David Montgomery, I think Kaleb Johnson would be his guy.
He's a closer look to Caleb. Yeah, Caleb and David Montgomery is a bit of a closer comparison. I still think David Montgomery gives you a little bit more, even in the passing game, than Caleb does.
I
Kind
do
of hate
too.
to say that too, but yeah, you're with me.
Yeah, both guys break tackles. They can hit those longer runs, but not really guys that'll break away and
No,
really get away from a defense. But overall, that's kind of what you're looking at. Cam with Cam Johnson, maybe not the best fit for Chicago, but I do think give him the right scheme. I think in a power run scheme, kind of as we mentioned, I definitely think he could succeed. He'll go probably second, maybe even third round if he slips a little bit. Some teams are scared of that 40. But overall, maybe just not the right guy for the Bears, especially if you're looking at that. Obviously, not 10. You're not taking Cam Johnson at 10, but maybe even in that second round, I'm still not sure. That's where the Bears would look.
yeah, there's some options there, though. You know, who we got lined up next, Mike?
Let's jump into Cam Skattebo. I'm gonna start on the
Ooh.
lower end of the list. I think we've already heard about a lot of these top guys. We'll get to them. But I think we'll start off with some of the lower end of the crop. And that's not to say these guys are bad or anything, but just maybe the guys that maybe not as heavily in consideration. But Cam Skattebo, he made a name for himself in the college football playoff. That game against Texas, one of the best games I've ever seen from a running back. He was running through the face of Texas. I actually thought Arizona State could win that game. I know there were a lot of people that didn't think they had a shot in hell, and really the only way I thought they could was Texas' run defense wasn't great. Arizona just runs through Skattebo. That's exactly what they did, and they were so close, probably deserved to win that game, but it was really Cam Skattebo and what he did in that game that kept them in it for so long. He had that long 40-yard touchdown in the game toward the end. I was a receiving touchdown. So you see that and you kind of think, well, why can't he do that at the NFL? He's just not exactly the biggest guy, kids. I mean, he's 5'10", 219. He's a big of a bowling ball. I know people look at Ashton Jeanty, but the way that the two running backs are built, Cam Skattebo he doesn't really do anything that special. I mean, he's a good overall running back, but there's nothing that I think separates him over the top of 462 40. I don't know, Keds. What do you think?
I think we man, we just talked about Kaleb Johnson, and strangely, the comparison kind of has to be there, right? Skattebo decided not to run the combine at all, which leads you to think that he's probably in the 4.6s by way of 40 time. Just a guess. He does not have that breakaway speed whatsoever, but he'll run you the F over. You know what I mean? It's just a little bit of a different situation to me, but very similar to a Kaleb Johnson. For all intents and purposes, the kid's a bruiser. He has just another level of tenacity about him when it comes down to running that rock. And you saw it in that particular game. It was on display, but it, for the most part, was on display every time he got the opportunity to display it. I suspect that he'll get into the NFL and be nothing different than what is as advertised. You know what I mean? He's going to run you down. He can likely be a 3-down back, but I'm a little bit worried about the passing game. Although he did show out a couple of times by way of passing. What about blocking case scenario, Michael? Did you get the chance to sort of look at him in pass block case scenario? Because I haven't done it. I suspect he's very good at it.
He can be inconsistent. I think that's a little bit of a thing, but I think that's a lot of college running backs. I don't think you're really going to find a college running back that's just really, really good at pass protection. That's just something that I think you have to develop. When it's there, it's really good, but sometimes he can just completely whiff, and a guy can just come right in on the quarterback. So it's a little hit or miss. I think it's a little better than Cam Johnson. I didn't see as many complete whiffs as Cam Johnson had, and I thought the technique was a little bit better. But overall, you're still looking at someone that you're probably going to have to develop in that area.
Yeah, fair enough. I would. Skattebo is a very interesting back at the end of the day, and I suspect he's going to have, again, to me, a good comp is David Montgomery. We just kind of use that comp for sure. a minute ago. But again, another pretty solid David Montgomery comp for both of those running backs.
Comp I have, it might be a little bit niche. I do go to Mizzou, so I've been watching their football team for about 3 years now. Honestly, didn't pay much attention to them before, just with how bad they were. But look, somehow since I've been here, they've actually been somewhat relevant, and he reminds me a lot of Cody Schrader. That's a name that he was really good for Missouri last year. He kind of made a name for himself in that Tennessee game where he racked over 200 yards. But neither guy is going to have the home run speed. They're really, really good college running backs. They'll run through you, they'll catch the ball in space and make guys miss. But just will it translate to the NFL? I just don't know.
Yeah.
That's the only problem with these guys is they can dominate in college, but do you really have the NFL tools to bring it to the next level? I kind of see a little bit of Schrader with him. I do think Skattebo is more talented. Like, I don't think he's on Schrader's level. I just think Schrader was just too average at everything. I do think Skattebo does some things above average, like in the receiving game and truly running people over that Schrader didn't. But that's kind of a guy that I look at, like just your classic above average college running back that just maybe doesn't have the best NFL translatable technique.
Well, we're about to find out in that draft, and then a little ways after that. So who's next? We got a list.
Let's look here. I'm trying to get to Trax's list. I mean, there's a lot of guys that you could kind of break down later into the draft. I think we're going to just stick to guys round 3 and on, because I think at this point we can kind of assume that there's going to be a running back drafted. Our starting running back is going to come from the draft. I think this will be a name that a lot of people will look toward as why not him. And let's go with Quinshon Judkins. Judkins, one of two of that two-headed monster out of Ohio State. Helped them win the national championship and put on an absolute clinic in that national championship game. 6 foot, 221, a 4.4 840. That's pretty solid, 76 percentile. But a lot of it comes in his other athleticism. 90th percentile vertical, a 99 percentile broad jump that helps you explode into gaps, and a 90th percentile 10-yard dash. The athleticism is definitely there for Quinshon Judkins. He's also a good short yardage running back, good vision behind zone blocks, good stiff arm technique. What do you think about Quinshon, man?
I think he's amazing all around in every capacity. You just kind of nailed it with some of his measurables at that combine, which should have really opened some eyes about Quinshon Judkins. Initially, I was a little bit worried because I'm a Treveyon fan. I spent the better part of last draft season staring at Treveyon and watching his tape and going, yo, this is a back right there. Like, we should keep our eyes on him. And then he decided not to actually go forward with the draft last season. And here he is in this particular draft class, just making it that much more tantalizing if you're looking for a running back. But back to Quinshon Judkins. Why bring up Treveyon is that at some point I had to stop and be like, is it just the offensive line in Ohio State? Like, I don't know, but plug in, play either one of these guys, and they're a superstar. Now, things that jump out to me about Quinshon. Remember, we were talking about pass blocking? Check. My guy can pass block, and he does it very well. He's a wanted pass blocker. Thunder? Check. Right. You're considering the guys we were just talking about. He will run you the F over too. He will. Is he fast? Yeah, he actually beat out. He did better than Treveyon did in the 40, which kind of blew my mind. And like, if he's that fast, if he can run you down, if he can actually catch the ball, he can out of the backfield as well. He's a fully rounded back that, for all intents and purposes, I know a lot of folks are saying, Ashton Jeanty, Omarion Hampton, who I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit, but if both of those guys wind up finding themselves other homes in this draft, I'll have no problems personally if we wind up with a Quinshon Judkins. I think he's that good.
Yeah, Judkins definitely, I think, should be in that second round consideration. Again, Not every running back is perfect. He does have a little bit of limitation. His pass protection, obviously, a little bit inconsistent, but I do think it is much better than Johnson and Skattebo. I actually think it's at least 2 tiers above it, but I think that's more of a knock on Johnson Skattebo rather than Judkins. His production dipped a little bit in the Big Ten. He averaged under 4 yards per carry in 5 Big Ten matchups last season. Maybe a little bit there, but I do think he made up for it with the national championship performance against a good Notre Dame defense. But I think the main thing with Quinshon is that he can be a little bit too overpatient. If his blocks aren't there right away, he doesn't try to hit the gap. He might just stand there and could lose a little bit of yards. So I think he just has to learn to be a little bit less patient, or not as patient, more just kind of go with what you have. Even if there's nothing there, just put your shoulders down. That's something he's really good at. He's good in these short yardage situations. Just put your shoulders down, take 2 yards instead of trying to wait for that 8+ yard gap that maybe just never shows up. And instead of 2, maybe you lose 2, and that sets you behind the chains.
I think we found the comp, right? So I think my comp for him is oh man. And now I'm forgetting who the comp. Oh, sorry, Le'Veon Bell.
That's a good one.
For him. Yeah,
that's a good one. I was looking at like Rachaad White, Brian Robinson. I think those are 2 guys that he kind of runs like as well. He's also a good receiver in the pass game, so maybe not so much like B-Rob, maybe a little bit like Rachaad White. You see him; he's using the pass game a lot in that Tampa Bay offense. So I think,
yeah, that's Quinshon. Honestly, he's outside of those other guys. He's the guy that I'm kind of hoping they wind up settling on if push comes to shove, for sure.
Yeah, I think we'll get into TreyVeyon Henderson next. Just kind of go side by side. Well, before we get into it with TreyVeyon, just going to thank everyone for showing out here this Tuesday night. Says we got 16 in here. I appreciate that a lot. Got Howie in the chat. I see David, Trappa, Dante, AC Adam, Lawrence was in here earlier. Appreciate everyone in here. Just tuning in, talking some Bears, talking some running backs in this draft class, as I think we can all kind of assume at this point. Like I said a little bit earlier, our starting running back's going to come in this draft. What pick? That's just to be determined, but I think we can definitely start to narrow down some of the names as they're going to use one of those top picks on a running back, which only leaves a select few. And we've already covered Judkins. We just did that a little while ago, just did Cam Skattebo and then Cam Johnson before him. But we'll hop into Treveyon Henderson, who I'll just say right now is my RB3 in the running back class, and a very good running back class. I have him just ahead of Quinshon Judkins because I think just overall he's shown a little bit more than Judkins. But when you have 2 really good players like that, you're kind of just comparing really good players, and someone might just be like, oh, so you don't like Quinshon Judkins? No, I think it's just more of I really love Treveyon Henderson and what I saw from him. He's a little bit smaller, 5'10", 202, but again, he has the similar explosiveness, 90th percentile vert, 95th percentile broad jump, and 87th percentile 10-yard dash, and a 4.4 340. So he's got that breakaway speed that you look for in a running back. He's also really good at breaking tackles. He's a good run blocker. Pass blocking's got to get there, but really in the run blocking, Treveyon Henderson is noticeable in his vision. Overall, he was part of that 2-headed monster that helped guide Ohio State to a championship right there with Quinshon Judkins. If you were looking at Thunder and Lightning in college football, that was your Gibbs and that was your Montgomery. And Henderson played a little bit more of that Montgomery role, Ked. So overall, what do you like out of Henderson?
Oh, man, to be honest with you, like I said, coming into this draft, before I got the opportunity to look at these prospects, as soon as I recognized again that Treveyon was coming out this season, like there's the back for the Bears. Let's go. Let's get him in the second round. Let's do it. He's the guy. I can respect that he's your back number 3. Like, it makes perfect sense to me. Quinshon has jumped up to back number 3 for me personally, it's really funny to look at this because I think, unfortunately, I feel like Kaleb Johnson has fallen to back number 5 for everybody. I think that's kind of how it's going to shake out. But man, what can't that kid do, man? What can he do? He's again another wanton blocker. Not perfect at it, but that's what you want. You want the running back to want to block the defender as opposed to let me just get out of his way. And you wind up seeing that so frequently with running backs, not necessarily with any of these guys that we've talked about so far. Again, except for a little bit with Kaleb Johnson. Like I hate to say it. But man, Kittle block, catching out of the backfield, amazing, fantastic when it comes down to actually catching the ball and moving in space. Shifty, great lateral movement, great vision. fast, right? Like there's not a lot.
4.43.
There's not a lot that he doesn't do. He's not really your folks would sort of say he's not your Thunder, but yeah, he can be your Thunder too. So, man, I like I say, I came into this situation saying, as long as we aim at TreyVeyon Henderson, all good things will happen. Now I'm very hype and interested in all 4 of those guys at the top of this draft.
Yep. And I mean, get into a little bit of some concerns with TreyVeyon Henderson. Durability can be a little bit of a concern. He missed a lot of time in both 2022 and 2023. And again, he's already missed time. At least this year, they kind of got Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss, split more time with him, keep his body a little bit fresh. And you saw what happened. He didn't miss any time this year and actually looked the best that he had, and way better than 2022 and 2023. He's a little bit like Judkins, though. He can get a little bit too fancy in the backfield rather than putting his head down. I do think that could be a little bit, though, of a product of just having a really good O-line and kind of just thinking that they're just going to create a gap at every single moment. And maybe when he realizes that in Chicago, hopefully it's a lot better, but I think that's a little bit to be determined. You're probably not going to have that Ohio State line just plowing people over like they had in front of them. But outside of injury concern,
fingers crossed, Michael.
I know. Fingers crossed. I mean, if it almost feels like heads if these 3 guys that they just added, along with Jones and Wright, if it doesn't work, they're cursed.
I don't know if it's ever gonna work, right? Like I'm so with you at this point, but I think you sort of nailed, I hit the nail on the head with just the wear and tear on TreyVeyon Henderson, which is again part of the reason why I've pushed Quinshon up a little bit, right? Like TreyVeyon's been running for many, many years, including in high school. Like for many, many years, he's got a lot of wear and tear on his body. So does Kaleb Johnson. I'm trying to think. Like the other 2 guys have a little bit less wear and tear on them, but it is a factor, and that is one of the main factors why again I've pushed TreyVeyon back just a little bit. But man, I would not be upset if he was a Chicago Bear either.
No, I wouldn't either. Like they're like this kids. Like we keep talking about the depth in this draft class, and it's like all these guys at the top. I don't think I'd be mad about any of them. Like they all like obviously maybe like Ashton Jeanty's obviously at the top, but even these guys afterward, like they definitely have just everything that maybe not everything they're looking for in a running back, but they just do a lot of the good stuff well.
And that's it. I mean, we'll just go right up to top 5 here, considering where we are, including Skattebo. Man, like, so then, you hang on to DeAndre Swift for the year, which you're probably going to do anyways. And you partnered that back with the other back, and you have a running back by committee situation. And I think you're doing pretty good. I think you're doing very well, actually. So I'm happy with those top 5. To be frank with you, though, and if you check out the chat's pointing out some of the guys. Like there's his name again. Howie R. Bears loves him some Bhayshul Tuten, and you know what? I do too.
Yeah. Bhayshul Tuten. He was a big riser out of just kind of this whole pre-draft process. I don't think a lot of people really even know who Bhayshul Tuten was. I actually don't even know if I just said that name correctly, but he's out of Virginia Tech. Bhayshul Tuten out of Virginia Tech. A little bit on the smaller side, 5'9", but 206. But the explosiveness, man, the athleticism from him. I mean, is like a Tariq Cohen, man. 4.3, 240, all the explosiveness, 97th percentile vert, 98th percentile broad, a 94th percentile 10-yard split. I mean, this is a guy that's going to get the ball in the backfield and just explode toward the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, he destroyed it in the combine, man, and it was a thing of beauty to sort of watch. Tuten better combine than Jamar Gibbs. That's interesting. Interesting noise. And I have to agree with you. He destroyed the combine this time around. I have a feeling that his stock has risen probably a little bit further than anybody has really given him credit for, including the mock drafts out there, the big boards out there. I would have to say he did fantastic in that combine, and I expect him to do very similar things. You made an interesting comp with Tariq Cohen. Tariq Cohen's 5'6".
Yeah. So
All right,
maybe
so
not on, just a little bit taller almost.
Well, I know. I just want to emphasize that.
Yeah.
Like Cohen was really small, and he got the job done for what it was worth, including being a wanton pass blocker. Like you got to throw that at the kid too.
Yep.
I liked me some Tariq Cohen, except the facts were, given the offensive line that we had at the time, there was a lot more east-west running than there was north-south running, and that was sort of to be expected. But the backs in this draft, even the little ones, are in and around 5'8" to 5'9". And I'm going to ask you, who's, I can name two of the most famous running backs of all time who are in and around 5'8", 5'9". Can you?
I know Barry's one of them.
Barry's one of them.
I'm not sure who the other one is. I know Travis Etienne's 5'8", but he's not the best running back of all time.
No, I would definitely
help me out here, kids.
I'm pretty sure that Walter's in and around that height too. I'm pretty sure. I think he's 5'9" and a little bit. And Maurice Jones-Drew, who's not the greatest of all time, but he's also in and around that height. There's a few guys who are sort of lower wallet share when it comes down to height, but to see how they perform with that lower center of gravity, it may be a beneficial situation. There's another one, Thurman Thomas. Thanks, Howie Arbears. You're right, man. Thurman Thomas is another, relatively, not so tall guy who really got the job done behind a solid offensive line. So I can see that being potentially a benefit over the course of the last little while. Guess how tall Jamar Gibbs is?
Yeah, another shorter guy.
5'7". So, just to put these things out there, I immediately look at this situation. I'm like, oh man, these guys are so small. I don't know how they're going to do in the NFL. And I kind of cringe. And then I started to sort of look at, holy smokes, some of the greatest running backs today and of yesteryear were in and around that height too, right? The only guys that I can sit back and say just flat out weren't is, again, a Le'Veon Bell and there's some bigger guys. There's Derrick Henry out there who you just want to move away from if you're a linebacker. But hey, man, I'm intrigued by these shorter guys this time around. Under normal pretenses, I'd be looking the other direction.
Yeah, and I think Howie with Bhayshul Tuten at 72, I definitely think it's a possibility. The agility isn't the best. I don't think his cone drill was very good in his shuttle, but overall, this is a guy that you can get into space. Let him use that speed. Let him use that explosiveness. Get him involved in some screens, maybe even. This is the perfect lightning, right, Keds? We keep talking about thunder lightning with Ben Johnson. It almost doesn't get more lightning than Tuten.
It might with Smith, who's the other one sort of right behind him. He's even faster and smaller. I think he's a little bit smaller, but he's even faster, right? So, like I say, this and we haven't even gotten to the nitty gritty behind these guys, which hopefully we're not drafting a running back that far back. But there are still some other guys. You mentioned Etienne, his brother's in there, and he's bigger and about the same speed. So who's to say that he's not a viable draft pick towards the later rounds of this draft, especially given how many guys we've already talked about, right? Devin Neal, I've seen his name pop up in the chat a couple of times.
I like that.
Devin Neal is a super solid running back, and I've run a couple of mocks over the time here, and I was able to scoop up a Devin Neal in the 7th round, which is just ridiculous. I do not suspect he will last to the 7th round under any capacity, but there he is. Man, so many more to talk about, Mike.
Yeah, I think Howie pointing out Bieniemy being 5'7", the running back coach. I think that's pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, we'll see who he winds up coaching, right? And considering that he coached up Adrian Peterson, I think we're in for whoever winds up in that running back room is in for some positive vibes, man. Things are going to go in the right direction. Wow, what's Jay saying here?
Yeah,
Jeanty isn't it. He's saying Jeanty isn't it. Okay.
Well, we're gonna get to Jeanty. I think we're gonna go to the guy right behind him now, though, with Omarion Hampton. out of North Carolina. And I mean, this is a guy that I truly thought was going to go to the Bears because I didn't think they were going to take Jeanty. Kind of looked like, I mean, this was before free agency. I wouldn't have taken Jeanty, but with Omarion Hampton, I would have loved him in the second round. He's not going in the second round anymore. He's not going in the second round anymore after his combine performance where he put on a show. He's an ideal running back size at 6 foot 221. We were talking about the smaller guys that can kind of scare some teams away. Hampton's not going to scare a team away at 6 foot 221. He had a good broad jump, 98th percentile, 10-yard dash, not the best at 79%, but his overall 40, a 4.46 is vertical in the 87th percentile. But the big thing that stands out about Omarion Hampton, Keds, is he does not go down. He will break almost every tackle. He was the second best running back in the country, right behind Ashton Jeanty in terms of broken tackles. It's just impossible to take him down, and it comes from his violent running style. He will run through you. I know we talked about Cam Skattebo running through you. Omarion Hampton literally will run you over and do it violently.
There's your north and south if that's what you're looking for. You know, if Quinshon Judkins isn't doing the job the way you need the job done, there's a guy who will, right? So I'm very interested in Omarion Hampton. I know that was really who I was sort of mocking to the Bears because I didn't think they had a shot at Jeanty. Think we have a shot at Jeanty now, right? Like after free agency is sort of moved around. I think the Bears do have a valid shot at Jeanty. But as far as Hampton is concerned, great strides, great vision, super tough to take down, decent pass catching back, but that's not what he's really famous for. He will just run you down north and south, and like it's hard to compare anybody to Derrick Henry, but he's probably the closest Derrick Henry you're going to get in this draft outside of maybe Martinez, who would be a little bit further. I'm blanking out on what Martinez's first name is right now.
Damian Martinez? Miami?
Damian Martinez, thank you. That's probably the closest thing that you'll get to besides him with respect to Derrick Henry. But this young man's also got some lateral moves to him, right? He can good vision, a little bit of lateral. So I'm with Omarion Hampton here too. If that's who we wind up getting, I got no problems with this one either.
Yeah, and he's someone that finished with 4 straight 100-yard games to end the season. Saved his best for last at North Carolina. Obviously, that'll track really well heading into draft season. That'll carry a lot of momentum. He does lack a little bit of creativity in space. Maybe not the guy that's going to juke you out of your shoes. He will rely on power, but fortunately for him, he can kind of do that. He can kind of rely on just running through you or stiff arming you and just being really physical with you. But maybe in the NFL might be a little bit of an adjustment period for him. I don't know. Maybe his rookie year struggles a little bit, gets in the gym after that rookie year, beefs up a bit, and then is right back to that college Omarion Hampton that we were used to seeing run through people.
That's what, again, if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for the real thunder, you'll get it from this kid in spades for sure. No questions about him.
All right. I think we'll get to the top guy now. I know Jay's already been vocal in the chat. Not a big fan of Ashton Jeanty. I'm convinced at this point, Keds, if he's there at number 10, there is no way they're not taking him. I think right now with how the current team is set up, they are set it up perfectly to draft him at number 10 if he's still there. What do you think what are you thinking, Keds?
So I guess we'll start it like this. So this kid went from not being a starting running back anywhere to being a timeshare running back, then getting a little bit more snaps, and then getting a full go. And every single year he stacked numbers on top of numbers on top of numbers, whether we're talking about 2,600 yards in a season this past season, I think it's 29 touchdowns this time around. The kid has grown into who he is, and I think he's just going to continue growing over the course of the next few years. Now, thing about this guy, again, wanton blocker. I'm not going to say he's the greatest blocker in the world, but he wants to do it when he's out there. Great in space when it comes to catching the football. good Lord, I don't know how you take him down. He's like a pinball out there, right? He rides contact. He'll take the contact, balance his way out of the tackle, and just keep on running. He's just a nightmare for secondary players. I don't know, man. I'm this kid impresses the heck out of me, and it has to do first of all with his lateral movement. His jump cut is insane, and I
Elite
can't really say
agility.
that for anybody else in this draft. Like, look at his jump cut; it's nuts. He'll jump cut twice and leave you over there. And it's about that simple. Now, that's part of it. Fantastic spin move. I've seen him hurdle some folks, but wrapping that all together with just general field vision, there's a bunch of clips where there's 8 men in the box. They're clearly under the impression that, these guys are going to run the football. They've got Ashton Jeanty. They're handing him the rock and they're going to see what happens. There's no daylight for him to find. And he finds his way into the end zone. And there's multiple clips. You have to go out there and see it and watch it, because I was impressed by that alone. 8 men in the box, they're all facing you, and somehow you find your way through all that. That's crazy, right? So I'm Jeanty impressed me quite a bit, and then to hear again, to put other things together, Ben Johnson is basically the guy who went and he got Jamar Gibbs. Jamar Gibbs is just a little bit shorter than this guy. He's also a very good pass catching back. So is this guy. Like, the similarities are definitely there. So I would, after free agency and looking what they've done, they've basically made it so that they're not beholden to any specific position in this draft. They can do whatever they want with the first pick. Personally, I still kind of hope that they trade back and score one more selection in the top 100. That's my hope. If they don't, I won't be mad if they grab themselves an Ashton Jeanty. I know everybody out there's talking about stuff like this. Hey, we clowned Detroit for getting themselves a running back in the first round. I personally clown Detroit because they traded up in the first round to get the running back. I think that's a little bit crazy. I wouldn't suggest you trade up, but getting them when your team is actually set up, I wasn't mad at Detroit for getting their guy. Personally, I wanted us to get Gibbs in the second round if he fell. That was my hopes, that he would be our second round selection. Unfortunately, he wasn't. In this case, Ben Johnson has set the table up to specifically get his guy, and I think he just might.
I think so too, Keds. And want to shout out the sponsor tonight. I know Cheryl put it here in the chat. Want to parlay? If you like betting on sports, you like watching sports, I mean, there's no better time now in March. I mean, everything's picking up. You got hockey on, you got the NBA on. I mean, you can't talk about March without March Madness. I mean, the first 4 started tonight. Obviously, that tournament will start at 11:15 a.m. bright and early Thursday morning. Just combine some picks together, pick some players you want to go over or under their projection. You also got the MLB opening day starting later this month. That's almost a week away now, a little bit over. Unless you're a Cubs or Dodgers fan, opening day already started. That was this morning. But for the rest of the MLB, it'll be later this month. If you enter promo code TRACKS, they'll start you off with some money entered into your account already. So you'll be playing on house money. You'll be playing on house money free of charge. Just use promo code TRACKS. They are the sponsor of Chicago Sports Podcast. Appreciate them for sponsoring us here tonight. And getting back to Ashton Jeanty, Keds.
Yeah.
I mean, this stat will always blow me away. He had 3,939 rushing yards. That led college football. The next closest was Omarion Hampton, who had 3,169 yards, almost 800 yards of difference. Taj Brooks of Texas Tech had 3,059. RJ Harvey of UCF had 2,995. The player that had
talk about either of those players, just
I know
this is how deep this class is. But continue.
Yeah. And who slotted in at 5th with 2,951 rushing yards was Ashton Jeanty after contact. That's just insane. Like, I don't think there's ever been a player in college football that has been proven to break so many tackles at such an elite pace. And I know the concern, he didn't play in a great conference. He played in the Mountain West. I don't know if people just didn't watch his Oregon game or what. Oregon stacked the box. I mean, this was the number one team in the country for 2 months. I mean, obviously their season went down in a burning pile of garbage, but overall, Oregon, they were stacking the box. It was 8 defenders, 7 defenders in the box, and he still went crazy against him. Like, the competition is nothing. This guy's going to break tackles in the NFL. Maybe at not that is an elite of a rate, but if you want a guy that's going to run through you, I mean, there's no one better. There's almost been no one better in recent draft history, Keds, than what Ashton Jeanty did this year.
Man, he's got a few 200-yard games, which is just like, that's crazy to talk about alone. But here's the thing. So that's like the running game is a big portion of what the Chicago Bears, and specifically Caleb Williams as a rookie quarterback, was missing last season. Again, whether that falls on the offensive line, or whether it falls on the 2 backs or 3 backs, if you will, that were in the running back room, I don't know. I'm not really gonna place blame, but a quarterback's best friend in this scenario is a run game. A run game that you can rely on, a run game that you can turn around and sort of say, F you, stop me from running you down. And if you can, cool, we'll switch it up. Force you to put 8 men in the box. You got 8 men in the box. Now I can put the ball, put that deep ball over top of you. And that's really what Caleb Williams was missing, right? He was missing that. It was, okay, well, first down, he's throwing the ball. We're in pass protection. We're in pass coverage. Second down, he's probably throwing the ball too, because they just can't rely on this run game. Third down, what do you think the Bears are about to do? So, like, you need to be able, as a rookie quarterback, you need to be able to rely on that run game. And a guy like Jeanty puts everybody on notice. Yo, this guy's going to run you down. This guy's going to run a 200-yarder on you. We need to have 8 men in the box to stop this guy. Well, guess what? We've also got an awesome quarterback who can do some damage. We've got 2 amazing wide receivers who can get out there, get open, and do some damage. We just got ourselves a decent slot receiver who can get open, who can run routes quite well, and is a wanton blocker. This makes things look a little bit nicer than it did last time around. Oh yeah, they just beefed up the entire offensive line. So I'm with it. I'm kind of down with the way that this is all shaking out. And if it shakes out into Ashton Jeanty, you are a Chicago Bear, I'm with it, man. As much as Jay might not like it in the chat, Jay, I'm sorry. I'm with it, bro. I got no problems with this one, because it's going to put teams on notice that the Bears have a bloody run game again.
Yeah, and the Bears, a team that really prides themselves on running the ball. I mean, we've seen our fair share of really good Bears running backs in recent and past history. And yeah, I mean, adding Ashton Jeanty to that Mount Rushmore of Bears running backs, I don't think would be a bad thing at all. And Black Rain 7920 saying they said Ashton averaged the most yards per run since Barry. Yeah, I mean, Ashton Jeanty was, I don't know the exact number. It probably would have been a little bit Mickey Mouse with how he would have done it, with how extra games compared to Barry. But going into that Penn State game, he had an opportunity to break his all-time collegiate rushing record in a single season. I think he would have played about 3 more games than Barry did, which just makes how good Barry Sanders was. I mean, that's insane, having that many rushing yards in 3 less games than Ashton Jeanty. But yeah, I mean, this is one of the best running back prospects we've seen. I think people are starting to overthink it a little bit. Ked saying he's not that good, he's not this good, and it's just kind of funny because I think we were on the other side of it last year with Caleb. Like, people are just saying he's not this good, he's not that good, he doesn't do this very well. Take Drake May, take Jaden Daniels, and maybe those people that talk about Jaden Daniels will say they're right. But overall, prospect fatigue is starting to catch up to Ashton Jeanty, and I just don't get it, man. I'm not overthinking it. I'm just going to slot him in as RB1. He's got a running back score right up there with Gibbs, with Bijan, Ezekiel Elliott, these guys that came into the NFL, took off instantly. I'm not overthinking it. He's going to hit the ground running. Doesn't have to be for the Bears. It could be for just about anyone with a pulse at offensive line. He's going to hit the ground running, and he's going to be a really good running back in this league.
He's going to, whoever he's playing against, they're going to put 8 men in the box. I don't care what team it is. You're a billion percent right. Somebody made a really good argument the other way today on it was on Twitter of all places. But the argument was really, these top 20 picks, you should be getting a $40 million player at a discount. That's really what you should be looking at. The running back market, it's sort of topped out at around $13 million a year, even for a guy like Saquon Barkley, who's running the Eagles into the Super Bowl, which is really interesting to sort of look at. But it's a very valid argument. You should be really looking at that top end defensive end. At $40 million, you're going to pay a heck of a lot less over the course of the first 4 years in his rookie contract. Same thing with a left tackle nowadays. Those guys go for big money. Some of these DTs do too. So I can understand from a dollars and cents perspective why all of that, is a sound argument. The problem is Bears picked 10th, and the guys that I would really be looking at $40 million prospects they kind of go before pick number 10 in this draft. There's a deep DT class. There's a semi-deep DE class. There's a pretty deep tackle class. And the running back class, as we've just gone through, is insane. Yeah. So at 10, who do you select? Do you select a left tackle that you could probably get in a second, a DE that you could probably get in a second, a DT that you could probably get in a second, or do you get the game-changing running back immediately? In this scenario, I'm probably going to pick the running back.
Yeah.
Because our run game was terrible.
Mm-hmm. And there's never a bad thing, kids, when you add a blue chip prospect to your team, even if it's not the greatest position of value, maybe with running back, but blue chip players, you win Super Bowls with blue chip players. I mean, ask the Eagles.
That's a good team to ask. Another aspect of this is you also want a starter, and a lot of folks out there are talking, hey, let's get Mason Graham. If Mason Graham is available, let's get him. And Mason Graham's an amazing talent. And under normal pretenses, I would be in agreement with folks, except we just got Grady Jarrett and we still have Zach Pickens and Javon Dexter in that role. So who you know what I mean? I'm saying get a starter, get a game-changing starter. And what position is left? There's only one position, in my opinion, and one other player that I think you get at 10. I'm going to see if you think like I think. Who would be the other player to get at 10?
Ooh. I mean, there's a lot of players that you could get at 10, kids.
There is.
I mean, I'm trying to look just through their board. I mean, are you looking at best player available, or are you looking at a position?
I'm looking at straight up starter for the Bears, given what the free agency has turned out. Who would start?
I think there's two that jump out at me. Okay. And one's Will Johnson. I think he could play cornerback 2 right away. The other one's Tyler Warren. I think he'd be tight end 1 right away.
There's your guy. There's the other guy that I'm really looking for is Tyler Warren, because he could play tight end 1 number or right away. He's a definite weapon. He's a threat. He's a blocking threat at tight end, right? That's the other guy to me in this scenario. It's not a defensive end. It's not a defensive tackle, and it's not a left tackle or a guard. And if you again look back at free agency, we've touched on all of those positions, and we let go of tight end. So in essence, in my mind, it's either you look at Tyler Warren, or you look at Ashton Jeanty at that pick, or God willing, you trade back if there's a nice offer for you.
Do the way Tyler Warren would jump over players this year, and he did it in so many different games. It was like Saquon was back at Penn State, kids. I mean, this dude is just so athletic, man. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it just really felt like I was watching Baby Kittle, like running around out there. He plays so much like George Kittle, in my opinion. And again, Cole Kmet's great. Like, I'm not going to dog on Cole Kmet at all. He's definitely an NFL worthy tight end. But when you have the opportunity to draft someone of a George Kittle pedigree, that's a game changer on offense. I don't think Kmet's really a game changer. I think Tyler Warren can be a game changer. And when you have the opportunity to draft a game changer, you do it.
For me, it all, and I'm not really trying to take any shots at Cole Kmet. I think Cole Kmet is amazing, given what he's talented at. The thing he's not necessarily talented at is blocking, and Tyler Warren will do that in spades. He's got no problems with it, and I expect no less from Tyler Warren, and that's basically the reason why I would select Tyler Warren, worst come to worst, because of his blocking prowess, because he can streak up the field, and he might just hurdle your butt too.
Yeah, I mean, the athleticism is crazy. He's been everywhere. I mean, his testing was really good in the combine. I know Trax is he's telling me about maybe a Tyler Warren highlight reel he has in here. I'm not seeing it though. I don't think it's in here anymore, Trax. But again, we might not have it here, but after this is over, which we'll be wrapping it up here shortly, if you haven't already, just look up Tyler Warren's highlight reel. It's insane. Like, Cole Kmet's made some really good plays. I think he's even had some hurdles in there. Tyler Warren runs like a big Derrick Henry that can jump over you. Like, he is something in space to watch with the football, and with someone like Ben Johnson controlling your offense, making a scheme. That's just something, like, more guys in space that can make moves, the better, right?
So that's what I think. My other two first round picks, worst come to worst, is James Pierce Jr. and Nick Emmanwari. Personally, again, I would like to select either one of those guys after a trade back, but those would be my personal top 4 potential selections for the Chicago Bears in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those guys at the top. I do like Pierce. I do think the character concerns, though, are quite real for him.
Yeah.
If there's any truth to that, we've already seen with the Jalen Carter experience, there's no shot he's even taking. But I don't know for 100% sure if that's true. I mean, people can go on Twitter and say anything about character issues and whether they're 100% true or not. I don't know. I do like the Emmanwari shout, though. With how good he's been in space, it's been, or
ladies and gentlemen,
There we go.
That's what we were looking for.
Fire this baby up again. Man, Ben Johnson loves him tight end too, man.
Yeah, especially one. I mean, we saw what Laporta did. I mean, he wasn't the greatest this past year, but I think a lot of that was due to JMO and his resurgence. But overall, we saw Laporta's rookie year. If he gets a tight end that knows what he's doing, wants to make him a focal point of the offense, he's going to do it, and he's going to be effective at it.
I agree.
think Trax is still playing around with this bad boy, but overall, um, I think I'm with you, Keds. I do think it's best player available, and just kind of where the Bears are sitting at 10. I do think it's just going to be Jeanty or Warren. Like I think that'll be if Genty's available, he'll be the top guy on the board. Warren will be second. If he's not available, Warren will be first. Honestly, if none of them are available, I'm not sure who is best available at that point because I think after that, you can really go anywhere. Do you go Will Campbell? Do you try and draft a guy that takes over next year, learns behind Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson? Um, you could go that way, or take an edge. Do you take Eamon War? I don't know. You could go anywhere, but that's what the Bears have done. They've set themselves up to go anywhere.
Well, like I say, I would be looking for a starter. I want somebody, if we're talking the top of the draft, you want that player to play. That's why a Jeanty and that's why those guys sort of come to mind. But look, we got some superstars in the chat. I'll give these guys a big bunch of love here now, and I'll also say that we are simulcasting on the Keds and Canuck channel. Please like, share, subscribe. Jump over to check me out at Keds the Canuck. I'll be collaborating with our guys here at Chicago Sports Podcast, as well as the folks over at the Nomad Network, potentially with my guy Swifty over at the Swifty shop there too. Mad love Swifty. Thanks for jumping into the chat, as well as the folks over at BCP. Just spreading myself a little bit thin right now, but the moral of the story is the more love, the bigger the community. So shout out to all you guys out there in the chat. Big ups to my guy Black Rain, to Trapakeepa, who was out there, Dante Purify. Shout out to Cheryl. Hey, Cheryl, what it do? Howie R. Bears is out there with us. AC Adam came to check us out as well. Who else we got out there? David Rigdon. Man, we got a pretty solid little show popping right now. And that being said, I can't wait till we get to this damn draft, man. That's it.
I know. I know. We're getting close, man. I do like that March Madness is coming around. It takes a little bit of time. Like it almost feels like a little bit of a bridge. There's this little gap between the combine, all the offseason stuff with free agency. Now there's this gap that you kind of take the bridge with some basketball. And then once that's over, you got about a week or two to the draft. And that's when everything starts to really ramp up. And those 2 weeks fly by like nothing.
Man, we're almost there. We're getting there quickly. And you're right. This little March Madness lull, get your bracket going, and you can pay a little bit of attention to the basketball thing for the next little while. In the meantime, the rest of us diehard football guys will be running mock drafts by the 15s. So we'll just keep pumping them out, and we will see you guys in April. And we'll also continue pumping out that good content.
Yep. And I'll be back here on the Chicago Sports Podcast tomorrow night. I'll be with a couple other guys. We'll just be breaking down the bracket. Again, I know I was on Sunday night with Sean and Trax, and I was talking a lot about the bracket. I've already made a bunch of changes to my bracket. There's a lot of stuff I said on Sunday night that after sleeping on it, I wasn't confident anymore. So I'll be breaking back down a lot of that tomorrow night with some other guys here on the Wednesday night right before the tournament begins. But I mean, Ked's kind of thanked everyone in the chat already, but I'll offer my thanks as well. I see Howie Swift, thanks for coming in. Cheryl, John King, Bravo. See Howie again, Black Rain, Dante, NJ, Jay. I mean, I'm trying not to miss anyone here. AC Adam, Trapakeepa. I know Trax was in here as well. Lawrence Kennedy and David Rigdon. I think that's everyone that came out. And appreciate the 19 people that are still with us here as we're about to close out. Whether you're here for just a little bit or whether you're here for basically the full hour with Keds and I, we appreciate you jumping in, just talking and listening to some Bears running back talk with the draft. And Ant-Man showing up right as we're closing out, man. But I appreciate you coming in for a little bit. We were just talking about some running backs, drop some good stuff. So if you want to go back and rewatch some of that, highly recommend talking some running back and where they might go, what the Bears are looking at. But Keds, if you ain't got anything else, I think we'll close this out.
Couple quick housekeeping notes, or maybe just one. Catch me tomorrow night on some extra sauce on the Nomad Network at 8 Central, 9 Eastern, and we'll do the darn thing one more time. See you guys tomorrow.
Yep. Be sure to go check out Ked's, really good dude, and did a really good job tonight here on the Chicago Sports Podcast. So be sure to go check him out. Like I said, I'll be back on here tomorrow, Wednesday night. Not talking Bears. We'll be talking a little bit of basketball before the big dance finally fully kicks off with round 1 Thursday morning. But for me and Ked's, I think we'll be calling it a night here. Be safe, everyone, and bear down.
Bear down.